Leadership is one of those concepts that we sometimes think applies only if we're in some type of a professional position, in a management supervisory role, some level of authority. And yet, every one of us has been, is, will be a leader in some capacity or more than one capacity on almost a daily basis. And we might not even think about it that way because it may not be a formal title. Well, we're going to be having a conversation today about leadership with someone who really exemplifies what it means to be a true leader and who is helping others understand what leadership is about and what each person's role should be. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee and join the conversation because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Well, welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve. My name is Steve, and this is the show where we come together around our virtual coffee table each week and join the conversation to chat about interesting topics with amazing guests. If you're joining us for the first time today, welcome. And if you've been with us before, welcome back. Yes, we're going to be talking about leadership today, and it's one of those subjects that I think we sometimes want to ignore or avoid, or we think that doesn't really apply because I'm not in a position, a title, a formal role of leadership. And yet, when you think about it, every one of us is a leader. Every one of us is tied to leadership, and we do it in a variety of ways. We do it. By the way, I'm looking at something here while we're talking. I'm looking to see who's on here, and I also want to make sure that we are sharing. And pardon me, because we've got so many new things on here. I've got to look and remember. Carissa, maybe help me find. I want to find the button that lets us put comments up and rolling on the screen while we're talking here. And I know it's here someplace. We used it last week, and I just have to, there we go. Thank you. You know, it's all the things that we try to keep track of. Also the fact that I need to be, paying attention to a variety of things. And that's why you're seeing me distracted. But this is what is really needed here. All right, let me say hello to a few people up here. Rick is here. Good morning, Rick. Yes, and Shalane joining from her phone, so the comments are slow. Also, it may be more difficult for you to see the comments rolling on the screen. We are testing something with that, with this new option that we have of the chat taking place on the screen. It's showing both Facebook and YouTube. And if you're watching on your phone, and you actually do have an option now to watch live on YouTube, and there are two options showing on YouTube. And we're going to mention this because it might be beneficial for some of you who are watching on your phone, is that you can go to YouTube, you can pick the option on YouTube that shows a little vertical telephone icon, and it should let you watch it in a format that is set for your phone. We're just testing it out. We don't know how well that's working yet, but if any of you are interested, whether you want to do that specifically or do that as an aside with what you're watching on your bigger screen, you can give us some feedback so we know how effectively that's working. Let's see, who else did I see was here? Kathy is here. Jerry is here. Good morning to you both. And again, if you are joining us today, Carla's here. If you are joining us today and in the chat or can see the chat, say hello so that we know that you're here. You see that little banner running across the bottom of the screen that invites you to do that. The other thing is that when we do get into our conversation with our guest today, we invite you to ask your questions, make your comments, share your perspectives. There's going to be some really interesting things shared today. And I'm hopeful that we're all going to benefit from it. I know that I benefited just from having the conversation when we recorded this. All right, just glancing, see comments is more of an artistic flair, too small to read. Yeah, if you're on, you may have to switch to YouTube to see them better, and you can let me know if that works in the chat, any of you who want to, but don't sacrifice your view if it's not going to be the best option for you. Let's take a look at some sweet and savory. There's some cool things going on that we wanted to share. First of all, you may remember 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had Mark Hill and Tatiana Kaminsky on the show to talk about their Halloween decorations, the way that they convert their property to be a gathering place, an inviting place for the entire community during the Halloween weekend. And even though they're in Seattle, and even though the weather wasn't fantastic on that weekend, which was yeah, it was a week ago this last Thursday, right? Was Halloween, or was it Friday? Thursday or Friday? Okay, wait, sorry. A week ago yesterday was Halloween. And so we reached out and asked Mark and Tatiana if they had any updates to share, and they sent a few pictures of the decor this year, and just a few that we can share with you. They also have available a 12-minute video, which we will try to get posted on our Facebook and YouTube channels. Share those there and give you a chance to see that. We just didn't have time to show the video here. But you can see some of the great things that they did this year, some of which were adaptations from previous years. or entirely new this year for 2025. But even though they had some rainy weather, they said that, and they can only estimate how many visitors they get because they have more than one entryway onto their property, and people sometimes are looping back, circling back, and so they can only estimate. They estimate that they had between 400 and 500 visitors to their home for Halloween. And you'll recall that one of the things that they do is they have a book giveaway that they invite the kids, the families who are coming by to trick or treat, to also take books. And they have them for in all styles, all types, and for all age groups. And they gather books throughout the year. And you can see here, I mean, they have quite a collection of new and sometimes gently used books. And they're inviting them to take what they want that will be appropriate for their kids, for their families. They say they gave away 379 books in total this Halloween. And they also do a fundraiser. They have a fundraising page for an organization called Page Ahead that provides books for students, for children who otherwise cannot afford the books. And they've had this fundraiser going for a few years now. This year, they raised over $1,000 for Page Ahead. So I say thank you, Tatiana and Mark. Well done. And God bless you as you now recover from your Halloween activities. And I'm sure already starting to plan for and think about next year, which is crazy to me because I'm just trying to get ready for Thanksgiving and ultimately Christmas. And I want to mention someone else and just another call out. I think we talked about this a week or two ago, that dear friend of mine and of our show, Dee Dee Kiso, was nominated and was being acknowledged this year by the Association of Fundraising Professionals in their Silicon Valley chapter as American Fundraising Professionals and that chapter's Fundraising Professional of the Year, which means it's only one for each of the chapters that is acknowledged each year and given that award. And it's for someone in the nonprofit fundraising community who has exemplified that, has shown in their career, in their outreach, in the ways that they serve their community, that their approach is significant and is making a difference. And Dee Dee received that award. And you're going to see a little bit more of the lady who's presenting her the award in this picture, because the lady there is our guest today, Illyasha Peete, who is the president-elect of the chapter of the Association of Fundraising Professionals that met this was for something that they call Philanthropy Day. And it takes place nationally every year and is something that's sponsored by the Association of Fundraising Professionals on a national basis to recognize and acknowledge philanthropists, those who are giving back to their community. And so in addition to Dee Dee's award, they gave out a number of awards to organizations and individuals in their community who are making a difference through their contributions. And it's a big deal. But you're going to learn more about, Dee Dee already, hopefully, from her times with us, both as a guest and as a participant in this chat. And you're going to learn more about her colleague there, Illyasha Peete, in just a few minutes. We do have one birthday this week that I want to call out. Kathy Glavin is celebrating a birthday on November 12th. And so we do want to mention Kathy and say happy birthday, sister. And hope that you have a great birthday. And Kathy is one of those people, she is very photogenic, but she hates to have photos taken of herself. And so trying to find any picture of her is always an amazing and interesting challenge. And if you finding one where she's not doing something like wearing sunglasses or a hat or a coat with a hood pulled over her head, is always a challenge as well. But I think she's gorgeous. She looks beautiful. She smiles beautiful. If you could see her eyes would be beautiful. Happy birthday, Kathy. Hey, do you have a special day this week that I may not have had on my calendar, on my list, and probably should have? Let us know that in the chat so that we can celebrate and acknowledge that with you. And if you have a special day coming up, an update, a news story, an item of interest for our sweet and savory, as Shalane calls it, the charcuterie, you can let us know that as well and send us an email to cbwsteve@comcast.net so we can make sure that we do acknowledge that we follow up on those ideas that you have for the charcuterie, for the sweet and savory. I'm tempted, Shalane, to change it to charcuterie. I still like sweet and savory, but it's tough. That charcuterie name kind of sticks as well. All right, listen, I want to let you know a little bit about our guest today and share why I think this conversation is important. Illyasha Peete, or as she's known by friends and colleagues alike, Illy, is an MBA and is the principal and CEO of an organization of a company called Catalyze and Cultivate Consulting, which is a Black woman-led certified women's business enterprise specializing in inclusive, sustainable leadership with a focus on her personal model for presenting is called Be Ideal, which stands for Belonging, Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Access, and Liberation. And that would work better if I could talk without having to drink coffee every few seconds. Illy is a dynamic leader with a global perspective, holding an MBA in global management from Ashford University, a certificate in nonprofit board consulting from BoardSource, a Harvard certificate in nonprofit leadership, and a diversity, equity, and inclusion certificate from Cornell University. As a PAVE-trained expert in trauma-informed leadership and de-escalation, she brings a thoughtful and strategic approach to guiding organizations through transformation. Illy's new book, Glass Ceilings, Fragile Ground, offers a unique and powerful roadmap, I really cannot talk, for leading with authenticity and impact. So before I stumble over any other words in my vocabulary, here is the conversation that I had with Illy Peete and your opportunity to engage in some really forward-thinking ideas about leadership for every one of us. Illy Peete, it's good to see you. Thank you for being here and welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve.
Steve, thanks so much for inviting me to be a guest. I'm really excited about the conversation today and I can't wait to jump in.
Well, I think the first thing that's always helpful for people to understand is a little bit about you and maybe talking about who you are, your background and upbringing, and maybe the things that have influenced your career choices. We shared a little bit about you in introducing this segment, but tell us a little bit more about Illy Peete and where you come from.
So I was actually born in Washington, D.C. My parents were doing their postgraduate studies at Georgetown. And my father was at Georgetown. My mother was at another college. And so I was born there. And I'll tell you the origin of my name, actually. There were some African women that lived in the building with them, and they suggested Illyasha as one of the names. And it means great ruler. And that's how I got my name. But I was raised in Memphis, Tennessee from the time I was 2 years old up until the time I left for college. And that really shaped my vision. It shaped my voice. It shaped my values. It shaped the person that I am today. And, my parents always taught me, my grandparents always taught me the value of a dollar, the value of hard work, and making sure that people whose voices were not heard had the opportunity and the space to be heard. I remember my father always spoke to and respected everyone at the courthouse, from the people that were on the custodial staff all the way up to the other judges. And so that was modeled for me very early on. I was an athlete. I actually got scholarship offers in 3 sports: basketball, soccer, and tennis.
Wow.
And so, there's a story behind playing those sports that were not basketball that I had to endure that also shaped the person and the leader that I've become. And so, my story is one of overcoming barriers, and also having a level of privilege that some people didn't have, right? The other thing that I will say is that tennis is a sport that I went to college playing, but it still hurts me to see tennis players like Coco Gauff still going through the same struggles that I went through over 35 years ago. So that's a little bit about me. I have two boys. They're both in college playing basketball. My mom is thriving at 81, and my sister and her family are absolutely amazing part of my life and my journey right now.
A lot of your journey as an adult, the athleticism is part of it. And in fact, I mean, that's still a focus. Personal fitness and athletics are still a focus of your life. But another key element of your life has been your work in the nonprofit sector, in social issues and making a difference. Can you talk a little bit about your personal passions and what are the things that you feel drive your desire to make a difference?
So I'm going to start it with the fitness, because I feel like movement is meditation. Movement is a part of my passion. It's what I do when I'm feeling sad. It's what I do when I'm feeling happy. It's what I do when I want to be helpful. I've been certified NASM personal trainer for over 35 years. Don't tell anyone. That'll be our secret. And I've worked with professional athletes all the way to non-traditional athletes, people with cancer, people with polio, people with heart problems. And that really has shaped, again, how I show up and how I lead. I feel like my work in the nonprofit is an extension of what my parents taught me. They taught me to open doors, kick them open if you have to, and hold them open as you reach for folks that are ready to come. And sometimes that means pushing them in front of you. And that's not only okay, it's to be celebrated, because their wins are my wins. So for me, the nonprofit sector gives me the opportunity to give back to folks that don't have the opportunity or the voice. It presents a place where I can provide a platform for them to speak and be heard and listened to. One of the programs that I have enjoyed most was one that I've worked with for Center in Excellence in Nonprofits, and it's called Building Representative Boards. And it's free for participants that want to join boards that have lived experience and that are of the community, the exact people that boards are trying to add to their boards, but don't know how. We've heard that story, right?
Yeah.
It gives us the opportunity to help people step into their greatness, to appreciate the strengths that they have that the people currently sitting on the boards do not have, and to learn how to read balance sheets and financial statements, learn what board service is about, so that once they join from a place of knowing that they can, and they understand, and they know that what they have is bringing value to nonprofit organizations. And we also work with the organizations to make sure that they're ready, because so many times they aren't. So it's a great marriage to make sure that that people from historically excluded populations are part of boards, but are part of boards in a way that makes them valuable and feel appreciated and honored for the experience they bring to the table. Did that answer your question, or do I need?
Absolutely. No. I mean, I think it raises additional questions, which is good, because my hope is our viewers are listening to and watching this, and it's prompting some additional thoughts on their part. So, and again, an invitation to those who are tuning in to watch this either live or you're watching this later on, put your questions, put your own thoughts and comments in the chat, because those are the places where we can continue to interact and where Illy can also see them and read them and provide additional perspectives. Let me talk just a little bit with you, or have you talk just a little bit, Illy, about we hear a lot about social justice. We hear a lot about social change, and we're seeing so much. And short of getting into a lot of the politics, there is just so much, I think, in recent years that has maybe put a different, maybe raised a window shade on certain things, has maybe put a different type of magnifying glass on certain elements of social change in the last few years. And I'm wondering from your perspective, some of the things that you've seen and how that has affected, I don't know if it's improved or what, but if you have seen any changes in how we view leadership in general based on some of the things that we've seen happen.
So this is what I'll say. Yes, it's made a difference. This is a great question, and I love this question. And I might answer it a little bit differently than you had intended, but please feel free.
No
to
intentions.
I am open.
You go for it.
You know, I think what I'm learning is some of the things that we were taught by the people that loved us, they were myths and they aren't true. I'm going to give you an example of one we've all heard and lean into. If you want something right, you do it yourself. Mm-hmm. That's a lie. It's a part of the way we were, in my generation, brought up. But that's not the way it should be, right? We have to learn to do things differently. And I think the millennials are teaching us that there's a thing called work-life balance. I don't know if I agree with everything, but I do agree with the overall premise of making time and space for the things that make us happy. I'm going to go back to the myths, though. I'm learning to reject them. I'm learning not to overwork. And I'm hoping to open up doors for others to start to do the same. You know, I feel like leadership now means embracing change, celebrating missteps. In fact, I heard a leader this weekend. She's a CEO of a Fortune 100 company, and she said, "I give myself 4 mistakes a day, 5 mistakes a day." She said, 5 mistakes a day, and I don't get mad at myself until the 6th one hits. Right? I mean, how freeing is that?
Yeah.
And what kind of model is that for the people she works with? What kind of creativity is she getting? What kind of innovation is she getting? When people know that they can make a mistake and recover, claim it, and then recover from it. One of the things that I always used to say is, I don't care how many mistakes you make. Maybe I'll rephrase that and say 5. I don't care if you make 5 mistakes a day, but please don't make the same mistake again. That means we're learning, we're growing, we are moving forward, and we're looking to do things differently in a way that's more effective and in a way that hopefully brings more people to this table so that our messages, our services, our products are getting more use. And we're supporting people as we do that. Again, I think we have to admit to our shortcomings, and we have to start listening in ways that we haven't in the past. The other thing that I'll say is that I recently wrote a book called Glass Ceilings, Fragile Grounds, and I talk about leadership and what it looks like to value your authentic self. It talks about collaboration. It talks about rest as resistance. It talks about how we show up and how we bring others in as we show up. I really believe that I am now a transformational leader that is also an entrepreneur. And I think that shift happened because of something outside of my control, and that's okay. I was an entrepreneur for many years, and then my son was born and had some medical concerns that kept my insurance company calling me and saying, if you take him to the hospital again, if you take him to the doctor again, we're going to have to drop you. So it was cheaper and better for me to work for someone rather than be an entrepreneur. And now I'm kind of refinding my footing as an entrepreneur, and I'm loving the challenge of it.
Can you share a little bit about you yourself? You talk about yourself as a transformational leader, but we all have those people in our lives who have influenced us as we move toward these positions of establishing ourselves. Who are your influencers? Who have been your mentors? Who are the people that you look toward as examples that you have tried to emulate or who have influenced you in some way toward the type of leader that you are or have tried to be?
What I would say, again, this is going to be an interesting answer. But
Good.
some of the nonprofit leaders that I've worked with, like Aubrey Merriman and Keisha Browder, have truly continued to inspire me because of the work that they do and the passion that they have while doing it and the way they bring community into their mission. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Secondly, I would say my mom. Her name's Ellen Peete. She taught me how to believe in myself, to love myself, and to be willing to fight for folks that can't fight for themselves. I would say my father, who's no longer here, he was an eclectic gentleman, is what I'm going to call him. Very smart, very brilliant, and very people-centered. And I bring that to me in every space that I go. But the true heroes in my life are those single parents, the people with lived experiences that are doing jobs that no one sees, the survivors of cancer, heart attacks, whatever the case may be, those champion for justice and community. Those are the people I looked up to. Those are the people that I embrace. Those are the people I pray for and cheer for, sometimes from the cheap seats and sometimes elbow to elbow. And you know, the people I love most don't always show up on the news or with these big titles. You can be a leader doing any job. And you can make a difference any place that you are. And so I lift up and I celebrate those voices whose names don't always get called.
Yeah. You mentioned your book, and the book is called Glass Ceilings, Fragile Ground, and just recently published, just recently available. And I want to talk a little bit about that because the book is about leadership. It's in many ways, I think primarily for people who are in leadership or are aspiring toward that. And one of the things in the introduction to the book, you write, they say if you work hard enough, you can break through any ceiling, but no one warns you about the cracks that form beneath your feet right when you thought you'd made it. And for me, that really was a perfect introductory statement because it outlines where you take the book. And the book is a combination of your own life experiences, of stories and examples of other people who have worked through and around and broken through some of those glass ceilings, but still have had to work upon that fragile ground and find ways to continue to move forward. And I'm wondering, as we get into a little more about that and hopefully get people interested in looking to get the book, I'm wondering what prompted you to write that book at this stage in your life, in your career.
I'm going to go back to my father. On his grave, it reads, "A champion for those in need." And his legacy was to be a part of changing systems. You know, my parents were both civil rights activists. They were at Martin Luther King's last speech. Yeah. And I remember them talking about, during the speech, all the men got up at one time and went to doors to protect because they could feel something was going wrong. So for me, it's about legacy, and it's about sharing stories that I have gone through, stories that others have gone through, so that people following in our footsteps don't have to hit those speed bumps, or they're better equipped once they do. It's very personal for me. I put some very personal stories in there. Yeah. And some of them were not easy to share. But I think what I've heard is those stories are what separate it from other leadership books. It brings a humanity to what I'm trying to share. And so again, the goal was to make sure that people had a roadmap. And at the end of every chapter, you'll find questions that help you drive through and kind of see where you are and where you want to go. And I've heard people say they've read it and reread it and redone the questions, and they can see their growth from 6 months ago when they read it for the first time up until now, or whatever the case may be. The goal was to help people of certain populations, historically excluded populations, really rise and rebuild or build in spaces that were not meant for us. I'm just going to say us, right? I talk a little bit about the rest as resistance. I talk about the imposter syndrome. I talk about what it means to stand in your truth. And the more that I live and the more that I learn, standing in your truth doesn't always mean showing up with a big horn. Sometimes it means doing it differently in a way that folks can digest in the moment. So for all those reasons and so many more, that's why I wrote the book.
The book, you mentioned this, but the book has a central focus for historically excluded populations, and which includes many minority and marginalized people. So why should it also appeal to or interest someone like me, a white, I kind of represent that white male population. Why me?
I'm actually going to reframe some language that you just used.
Good for you.
The reason I chose historically excluded is because systems have created so many of the problems that we have. And history teaches us that we sometimes blame people from historically excluded populations for those problems. And so I chose to switch to radically excluded, those pushed to the margins, and instead of some of those words that folks typically use. Not to say that you have to, but it's just something to think about in the future. So this is what I would say. The book not only talks to people and is written for people from historically excluded populations, but it's also written from leaders that want to support, uplift, co-create spaces where we can thrive. So many of the times we hear, you need to go get mentorship, you need to go get sponsorship, you need to get this certification, you need to get whatever. There's also work that leaders who want to be co-conspirators with us, there's work that you have to do as well. And there are parts there throughout the book, there are ways for you to kind of lean in with empathy and justice at the center so that you don't harm the people you're working to partner with, if you will. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, and I appreciate it. Yes. Illy, where can people find your book, and where can people find out more about you and your work?
So I am on LinkedIn, and I'm sure they're going to drop that LinkedIn link. And then the name of my organization is Catalyze and Cultivate Consulting. And that's also, Catalyze and Cultivate Consulting.com. So you can find me there. Those are pretty much the best places to connect with me. And I'm always open for connection and discussion and consideration. It's been a wild ride, and I've really enjoyed people reaching out to kind of provide more perspective, because as a person that is working with leaders of large and medium companies, as well as working with leaders who are just starting their journey.
Mm-hmm.
The more feedback I get, the better opportunity I am to be the leader that they need to support their growth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna share about an organization that I've been working with. It's an interesting story. It's a food bank, and yearly we have a cohort experience where there's coaching as well as learning experiences. And this last year, because we kind of reframed how we offered the coaching and the learning experiences, we had 100% participation over 8 months. And so my goal is to build programs that are co-created where I get buy-in before they start, so that people lean in with vulnerability, so that we can help to move mountains.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's the best place for people to get your book?
So people can get my book on Amazon. You can also go to my website, and that takes you to Amazon as well.
Yeah.
So that's the best place right now. And hopefully there'll be an audio book soon.
Good. The book is called Glass Ceilings, Fragile Ground. It's by Illyasha Peete. And Illy, thank you so much for taking the time to be here to share so many great perspectives that for me are thought-provoking, mind and heart opening. And I appreciate what you've written in the book. I'm continuing to read it and reread chapters along the way, because it is extremely moving. I agree, it is a unique perspective on leadership, and it's for everyone. So thank you for taking time to be here to share so much that I think we need to reflect on and embrace.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And I can't wait to hear, what you think about it after you finish. And I'm looking forward to your writing, to writing a reference or a referral on of Amazon after you finish.
You know that's going to happen, my friend. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, listen. Leadership is not an exclusive thing for people who hold a title. And I love the fact that Illy approaches leadership, and in her book, which I have finished reading and will be rereading, and a couple of things about it is that at the end, she mentions that at the end of each chapter, she includes some really kind of almost a workbook section. There are some steps to apply the things that she talks about in that chapter. It is in and of itself almost a workbook, but she is also at the end of the book, she talks about the fact that there is a free workbook that you can go online and download, which I have not done yet, but I will definitely do so. And I will be putting my own review, which you can bet will be extremely positive, on Amazon. Listen, I'm retired. I'm no longer in really typically formal roles of leadership in terms of title, in terms of levels of authority, but I still find myself working in leadership capacities, engaging in areas every single day of my life that involve exhibiting leadership. And sometimes leadership comes from, Illy talked about this as well, about understanding someone else's perspective. During the time that I was working in California and was involved in the Association of Fundraising Professionals, the organization that just awarded Dee and that both Dee and Illy are involved in, I was involved for a number of years, and at one point was actually the chair of a committee that was part of the AFP, the association, that was a mentorship program. I was involved, I was responsible for several years in putting that program together and recruiting mentors who could be connected with newer, less experienced people coming into the nonprofit fundraising sphere. And we would connect them for the course of a year to allow those mentors to share some of their experience and some of their expertise and some of their knowledge and wisdom with the new up and coming next generation that was coming in. And one of the things I always instructed our mentors at the beginning of every year, and it was always true for me as well, and that is, if you finish this program, if you finish your engagement with the person you are mentoring, and you have not learned from them as well as helping to mentor them, if you didn't come away learning new things by being engaged with them, it has not been successful. Be open to learning along the way. You're not just teaching, you're also one who is learning. And I think that's tied to leadership as well. I appreciate your comments in here. Please continue to engage. Please continue to comment. If you came in, I saw Kim Baker, I'm sorry that you couldn't find us at first, but if you go back and rewatch this, or if you're someone who's tuning in later and watching this, put your own perspectives, put your own comments, and even your questions. Illy will have the opportunity to review all of this and respond and engage. And I would really encourage you to get her book. It doesn't matter to me what your formal title or role might be. And I can assure you that you're going to find things and learn things from her book. It's not a difficult read, but it is one of those that you will find that you will read and you'll want to go back and reconnect to areas within that book. I'm almost positive. Hey, let me let you know what's coming up in the next few weeks. First of all, next week is a little bit of an enigma. I am at this point scheduled to be out of town next week. As many of you know, I continue to do work for an organization called the Saber 6 Foundation, which is a group that works with veterans. And the annual reunion for this veterans group is taking place next weekend in Chicago. And I'm supposed to be there for that. As many of you may also know, there are some things, for lack of a better term, and no pun intended, up in the air right now regarding flights, airlines, because of the government shutdown, because of the FAA not being fully staffed at some airports. There is a requirement that was just issued at the end of the week to actually cancel flights, reduce the number of flights. My flight to Chicago right now and my flight back home from Chicago at the end of the weekend are both still currently scheduled. So at this point, we think that next week there will not be a Coffee Breaks with Steve episode. That's the current plan. We're going to take a week off. If that changes, and I end up not being able to get to Chicago for some reason, no alternatives, no backup plans, then you will see some posts indicating that we will have a show. It may be that we will be doing one of our best of past conversations. But just keep an eye on things on our Facebook and on our Instagram to see what's going on next week. We'll let you know, should be able to let you know for sure one way or another by later in the week what's going to be happening. All right, beyond that, we do have a variety of things coming up. We've got a lot of shows that are already in the works, conversations have been recorded, or we've got them scheduled. Just want to share a few things that are coming up between now and the end of the year. All right, a lot happening just between now and the end of December. And that's really not that far away. I was looking and it's like we're 7.5 weeks away from the end of this year, which is crazy to me. But anyway, listen, there's so many lessons learned when we have people like Illy Peete come on here. I want to thank Illy one more time for taking the time to join us to share her amazing wisdom and perspectives on leadership. I do encourage you to get her book called, once again, Glass Ceilings, Fragile Ground by Illyasha Peete. You can find it on her website, which we put the links in the comments, and you can find it on Amazon.com. In the meantime, we're all leaders in one way or another. We lead by example. We lead by doing. We lead by words and calls to action. So please find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Coffee Breaks with Steve.